Good day, everybody. Uh, he's Mon. I'm Jake. Welcome to the Bengals Pulse. We're missing
Jake.
somebody right now, but hey, we're gonna roll. The show must go on. Jake will join us in a little bit. Very exciting day today. Roster cuts. A lot of Bengals news out there. Mon, what's going on?
Your name is Eric. You called yourself Jake. Okay.
Oh man, he
Just
does it all
remember
the
that.
time.
I know he
Oh,
does. I know.
I'm never gonna live
Eric,
that
how are
down.
you? Are you doing okay? Are
I
you
don't
doing
know.
good?
Maybe I
Is there
need some
any,
of Mon's medicine.
yeah, thank you very much. It's been a boring day. Nothing's happened in the NFL. There's not much
Oh
to
God,
talk
I
about
know.
today. So, what are we going to do for the next 45 minutes?
I mean, I know what we're gonna do for the next 15 minutes, so we're gonna get our opinions out there. Yeah, it's
We
there's
get to talk.
the
Hey.
the NFL news comes in spurts. You have a lot of talking time and a lot of news time. So let's get into some of that news. Over the weekend, we got a lot of people to out there that were able to prove and keep the receipts on Adam Schefter as Jamar Chase returned to practice. And big news today, they asked him about 10 different ways, and Zach Taylor was adamant that Jamar Chase is playing week one no matter what. So, what do you think about that, Mon? The news that everybody knew already, but it's national news?
Well, I just figured something out these last 3 days that Adam Schefter is very popular in Bengaldom. He's easily probably the most popular beat writer, national beat writer out there because I have never seen so much interaction about Adam Schefter and the Cincinnati Bengals the last couple days. Jamar Chase is going to be a Cincinnati Bengal for years to come. He's going to sign a big contract. I still think it's going to happen this year. It's not going to happen next year. He's going to play week one. Zach Taylor said that. Everybody on Bengal Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're at, we know it's going to happen. We don't need Adam Schefter to, say what he needs to say. Jamar Chase is going to be a Bengal for the next 6, 7, 8 years. He even said it. He thinks he's going to retire and play his whole career in Cincinnati. He's the second best player on the team. He's going to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. I still think it happens before week one against New England.
Yeah, I mean, everything benefits the Bengals to do it now. Get that money in while you still have his 50-year option to lean on. You can spread out all those bonuses all the way around. I mean, our fear going into this was that Jamar wouldn't want to negotiate until next year. And that's been clear this whole time with the Holden that he wants his money now. He wants it up front. He wants it now. He puts it on here. Yeah, just literally like 15 minutes ago, Adam Schefter finally put out a tweet acknowledging that Jamar Chase would play week one. So he couldn't. I guess you can't call yourself a breaking news reporter if you break news 3 days later. But it is what it is. He's got his motives, and all Bengals fandom knows what's really going on there. What
Gotcha.
what do you
Jake will be
think?
on in about 10 minutes. He'll be on in about 10
Okay,
minutes. Just sent me a
what
text. Go ahead. What was that?
we'll
What
call
was
it?
that?
We'll call him Eric when he comes on.
All right, great.
What are your thoughts on the CD Lamb? CD Lamb gets his deal done. Do you think that helps Jamar Chase get done, or is that just kind of a afterthought that really didn't matter?
No, no, I think it does help, more clarity. Obviously Justin Jefferson and him, they're the big ones. Ayuk is still waiting for his deal in San Francisco. Is he going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler? Where's he going to go? Is he going to be a Cleveland Brown? We don't know. So those are the big four. And I personally think Jamar Chase handled it the best out of all of them. He showed up, in the team meetings. We knew he was practicing in the bubble. He was doing things on his own. He didn't want to get hurt, but he was doing things, preparing, getting ready for week one. The CD Lamb, yeah, gave us a little bit more clarity. I think he's a better player. I think he's going to make more than him. So we'll see. I fully expect him. I'm not trying to be a homer here. He's going to sign his contract this year. It's going to happen. And I think it's smart for the Bengals to do that because, Eric, what's going to happen next year? If they decide to play hardball and say, hey, we're going to hold off, that contract's going to be 15, 20% more than it is now. So it's more beneficial for the Cincinnati Bengals. Go ahead, sign him, get it done. Second best player on the team. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get to the Super Bowl. It's going to happen. He's going to have a new contract before week one.
Is it gonna happen while the Bengals Pulse is live? We gotta keep refreshing Twitter because we need to break that news. Yeah, you know what, Jamar? I'll give you my cell number, just let me break the news. We got it for you.
You
Uh,
have a siren that can go off, breaking news,
oh,
breaking
no,
news. That's what they do on
Jamar
the
and I, you know,
spaces.
we text all the time, so no big deal.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
let's talk contract stuff. So I was thinking earlier today, you know, last year we got some surprise contract extensions, and we had Trey Hendrickson kind of blow up earlier this offseason, saying he was demanding a trade, wanting to renegotiate when he couldn't even negotiate. You know, that's kind of all settled down. The heat's gone away on that. Is there a possibility we could get a surprise Trey Hendrickson extension or maybe a Mike Hilton extension in there?
I doubt it. I don't think so. Maybe towards the end of the season, they could do something. Remember, they did re-up him last year. They gave him some upfront money. They get added another year to the contract. I think he got 6, 7 more million extra last year on top of what he was making. He did sign that contract. I don't think. I don't see Hilton and or Hendrickson getting an extension. I think the priority is obviously going to be uh, Jamar Chase, and they'll reevaluate in the offseason with those two.
Yeah. I think that we could have seen a Mike Hilton, and I still think we might see a Mike Hilton extension. But I do think that the play this offseason of Dax Hill, DJ Turner, and Big Newton has maybe put this less likely because now DJ Turner might have to convert into that backup for Mike Hilton. We do no longer have Jalen Davis. I know we're going to talk about that a lot later on, but someone's got to step in and be that backup for Mike Hilton. So I still think there's a possibility. We'll see.
No, I mean we've talked about it for multiple episodes. How much draft capital the Bengals have spent on the defensive backs. Last year, 6 of our 10 defensive backs were either rookies or first year players. They drafted more this year. Anthony made the team. We're going to talk about that when Jake gets on in a few minutes. We have a young defensive backfield. The Bengals know how important that is. It's a passing league with Mahomes in the AFC, Josh Allen in the AFC. The best quarterbacks in football predominantly are in the AFC. So you have to have defensive backs to counter that. And hey, Cincinnati knows that, and that's why they're spending all this draft capital, accumulating solid players. And yeah, they could keep Hilton. They absolutely could, but they're preparing with this influx of young talent to replace him eventually.
Yeah, I think a little extension, you know, keep him around just to be a mentor, just an extra year to kind of be there to guide those guys. I mean, if I guess it depends on what Mike Hilton, you know, what he thinks his market's going to be. If he thinks he can get another
Yeah.
nice deal out there, then it's possible.
I know we're waiting to talk about the roster, the cuts, and the 53, but I do want to jump ahead here on one player. It's not Jake's favorite player, but Jalen Davis is going to get claimed by another team. Jalen Davis was very highly thought of by Zach Taylor and other coaches. They thought he could start for multiple teams last year in the NFL. He's that good. That's what they think. I think he's going to wind up being on a roster in the AFC North personally. He's going to be a Bengal that gets claimed. The Bengals were really deep in the defensive backfield. They really were. And you know what? Hats off to Dax Hill. Caught a lot of hell on Bengals Twitter. The guy's going to be our starting cornerback this year. He's talented. I expect big things from him. The defensive backfield is the least of our worries in Cincinnati.
Which is awesome because we went into this offseason with a lot of questions, you know, and we turned it around and look how they answered that. Geno Stone,
Yeah,
Von Bell, Dax Hill, Fig Newton. I mean, you turned one of your weaknesses into on paper a big strength.
yeah.
Talking about one of our weaknesses, and we're not going to wait to talk about this because it happened last Friday. Mon predicted that it would happen after the Bucks game, but they waited. Our Jackson Carmen experiment is finally over, which is really frustrating to say. You never want to root against the guy, and I don't think we ever rooted against him. It just felt like he was checked out on this team. He was done participating out there. He hasn't been claimed yet, so I think testament to how he's shown out on the field. But give me your thoughts on Jackson Carman. What went wrong there? A lot of talent and a very high draft pick.
Okay, real quick on the Jalen Davis Diddy, I didn't know that. If he can't get claimed, he could re-sign with us or sign with any team. That's a good point. That's right. Vested veterans aren't. They don't go through the claim process. They can sign with any team. That's the same thing with P Ryan. P Ryan can pick any team he wants to sign with right now. We're going to talk more about that later. Um, Jackson Carman. You know what? Has there been a Bengal player beat up more on Twitter and social media than him? Let me stick up for him a little bit. I think the best thing for him is to go to another team. Just get out of here and restart. He obviously has talent. He's got an NFL body. He was highly thought of in the draft process. You know, was he a little overdrafted in the second round? Maybe, but he had a lot of potential. Had a solid college career. I think he's going to get claimed. He's going to get another chance. Second round picks get opportunities. They do, and maybe that's what he needs. That reset button. He came to Cincinnati. He was a left tackle at Clemson, major college football, blocking for Lawrence. Bengals moved him to guard. They moved him to right tackle. He played every spot on that offensive line besides center. He didn't play center. Played every position. Guy's head was spinning. You know, was he set up to succeed? I don't know. He had his opportunities. He did have some flashes. That Buffalo playoff game, he was dominant, but we just didn't see enough of that. And it's time to move on. I wish him the best. Not to be negative, we could have had Creed Humphreys,
Yeah, I was going to
the
say that.
the Kansas City center who just signed a mega contract, arguably the best center in football. Big what if there. I tell you, that's I think that's the key. The interior offensive line. If you look at Kansas City, Tooney, Humphreys, and Smith, three of the best guard center. That's probably the best guard center combo in the NFL. And that's one of the main reasons Mahomes is as dominant as he is. We need to recreate that in Cincinnati if we can eventually over the next couple of years.
Yeah, so much is put on the fact that your left tackle and your right tackle, but in today's football, it's really that interior offensive line allowing your quarterback to feel the pressure, step up and make the throws. What we've had wrong so many times these last few years is there's no place for Joe Burrow or Jake Browning to step into and make the throws. And that's going to be nice to see what we have this year with a healthy interior offensive line and the skyline as they've named it, with Brown, Mims, Volson's is 6'7", Orlando Brown Jr. is 6'8". I mean, Joe Burrow might have to get on his tippy toes to see over those guys. So it's gonna be a good change.
No, that's fine with me. I'm glad they're big. You know what? It just this is the best offensive line Joe Burrow's had since he's been in Cincinnati. Um, they've been relatively healthy the last few years. The interior, like Karras hasn't, I don't think he's missed a game. Kappa's missed some games, obviously, that last AFC championship game. We need Kappa to return to form because his first year in Cincinnati, he was dominant. He struggled a little bit. He hasn't regained that. I think he was a little nicked up last year. He regressed a little bit. We need to have Volson to continue trending up. Just want those guys to stay healthy because the depth is a little suspect. And I don't want that tested. And we'll see. I mean, we just need Joe Burrow to start all 17 games. If that happens, it's going to be a good year. I saw on ESPN their computer simulations. The Bengals right now they have a 76% chance of making the playoffs with this roster. That's pretty good. I'll take that. I'll
Yeah,
take that any day.
absolutely. Uh, One other person, and I don't know, we'll talk about this later, but we can double talk it with if Jake wants to. But Samaje Perine was cut by the Broncos. They were out, they were shopping him. They were trying to get a trade partner. I don't know if the Bengals called, but he is now available, and he is a vested veteran. So could you see that the Bengals bringing him back, and would it be a fourth, or would we be seeing Travion on the outs?
You know, I'm really stunned that they went with four or with three running backs. We'll jump ahead a little bit here. I know we're waiting for Jake. I think they are going to go with four running backs. And I think if they do agree to a contract with P. Ryan, um, somebody else is going to get cut. Right? I have my views who number 51, 52, 53 are on the roster. I'll talk about that when Jake gets on in a few minutes. One of those guys will get axed, and P. Ryan will take that spot. Where we have 5 tight ends on the roster. I think we have 10 defensive backs, 5 safeties. There's a lot of movement there. There's a lot of I guess fat you can trim to bring on P. Ryan. So I
Yeah.
think there will be a reunion. I really do. He knows the offense. Coach Taylor loves him, and I think it's going to happen. I think Jake is on.
Yeah, yeah, we'll throw them on the screen here. I think it just makes sense for everybody, but it depends if you're gonna stick with 4 running or 3 running backs or go to 4. If you go to 4, it's a no-brainer to bring him in, but like you said, there could be an odd man out there. Or do you try and, I don't know how you get one of those tight ends to the practice squad, okay, we got Jake, so we're gonna throw him on the screen. We're gonna go to the next topic. Welcome in, Jake.
Who day, guys? Who day? Sorry, I'm a little late. Short week this week, guys. JV game tomorrow night, varsity game on Thursday this week. So a lot of work to do there, but excited to be on. What did I miss? What did I miss? I mean, nothing big happened today, right? Nothing big. Just I don't know,
Nothing big.
maybe
Yeah, man,
nothing
just
to.
put us out. Show's over. Just tell everybody thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on. See you later.
All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse, as always. No, let's so get me caught up here. Where are we at?
We just
I
talked.
gotta-
We just talked about Carmen. Just general chit chat about some cuts from last Friday.
Okay.
Let's. We've been really teasing the 53-man roster and the cuts. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
because everybody's
Well,
waiting.
let's
for
jump
it.
into this. Let's jump into this before we get there. This, to me, this is the headline because we've talked this quite a bit. Mon has said it over and over and over again. The Bengals do not cut draft picks. My counter to that has been it's not often that the Bengals have 10 draft picks. How are they going to keep 10 draft picks? Well, the Bengals' initial 53-man roster contains all 10 draft selections and 2 undrafted free agents. That's 12 roster spots. I think somebody put it out there, 22% of the roster.
Crazy.
Talk to me about how crazy this is that all of those rookies made the roster.
You may go first. I mean, I
Sure.
think it is crazy, to be honest with you. I mean, we talk about every year, guys, when the Bengals have all these picks, and we're like, those last couple picks, not everybody makes this roster, but they did this year, and it is crazy that the Bengals kept all of these rookies. I mean, I think they feel comfortable enough with the veteran leadership on this football team that they can do that. I think the 2 undrafted rookie free agents are really 2 guys that spotlighted this preseason. Mon, I love my guy. Mon hit it on the head. Cedric Johnson makes this roster, and does he make it if Miles Murphy's not hurt? I don't know, but I think it's a great opportunity for him. We both talked about Kirkland. We talked about Matt Lee. Both of those guys make this roster as well. Obviously, the 2 rookie defensive tackles make this roster. I just think it's crazy. What about the tight ends, though? I mean, we talked about this on the show. What is a possibility of all these tight ends making this roster? And they did. And I think that's crazy. We're seeing a huge change in this Bengals personnel, which we kind of heard might be the case. Mon?
Yeah, we all know. Every Bengal fan knows. Everybody watching right now, the Bengals the draft picks are gold to them. They are, and the Bengals don't want to let these guys go. I mean, guys that are obviously struggling and not, things aren't working out well for them. They give them every opportunity to succeed, though they might even hold on to them for a year longer than they should. I think they did that with some people that they recently released. But the Cincinnati Bengals love their draft picks, and hey, these coaches, they have my respect, and they've obviously seen some stuff in some of these players, and we saw it in preseason. I know we finished 0-3, but these guys flashed. Anthony, the defensive back from Ole Miss flashed. Johnson flashed. They all have. They really look good. Eric All has looked really good. I mean, I'm stunned with that knee injury. I thought he'd be on PUP.
Yeah.
He was one of the stars at camp. McLaughlin made the team. Your guy Hudson made the team at tight end. He wasn't a draft pick, but still,
No.
10 is a big number. I'm a little stunned by that, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because the Bengals love their draft picks. And
I mean, it's 12 rookies. It's 12.
right.
And on that note, do you think, do you think we see all of them make it? Obviously, Robbins and Murphy to the 4-week IR, I think really made it easy to keep all 12 of them. But do you see all 10 of those draft picks making it if Robbins and Murphy don't have to head to the IR?
Go ahead, Mon. I'll let you do this one.
Well, I mean, Jake mentioned it earlier. Did Johnson make it because of Murphy's injury? I don't know. Did Tuafale make it because of Murphy's injury? I think Cedric Johnson. I think he showed enough to make this roster. He was, to me, one of the best players in camp. Now, when it comes to Robbins, that's unfortunate for him because Rakow has basically a 4-week tryout. If he's consistent these next 4 weeks, I think he's going to be our punter for the rest of the year. I really think so. So we will see. I don't want any issues there. Hopefully he's good at the exchange with the snap, on extra points and field goals. He'll be ready to play, and I think he's going to be our punter for the next 4 weeks, and we'll see.
I mean, what a great opportunity for him. I mean, obviously, we obviously, all three of us, we are endeared to Robbins, obviously a friend of the show, but a good opportunity for him and a good opportunity for Cedric Johnson, to be honest with you. I mean, what the one thing that we really lacked last year besides Trey Hendrickson was a pass rush. And, what a great opportunity for Cedric Johnson to come in with Myles Murphy's injury. And again, we don't know if he makes it or not, but I'm with you, Mon. I think he might have made it anyways. Him and both Meta, I'll just say Meta, him and both Meta, both of those guys were the highlight of preseason football. I mean, they are both guys that, and I don't like comparing and doing that thing, but I'll tell you guys, when I look at Meta play linebacker, it reminds me a lot of Vontaze Burfict, even Odell Thurman, the way he just gets to the football. He's just one of those linebackers that sees the ball well. He understands run fits. He was out there playing like a veteran. I think he makes this roster no matter what, and I think he's going to play. By the way, Mon, my guy Joe Bocci on the roster still. This is a guy that, he's just one of the coaches love him, and I know he's not the most athletic guy, but once again, Joe Bocci makes this roster. I think that's an interesting story that this guy continually makes this roster, right?
Yeah, good for him. Obviously, special teams ace, and with Marcus Bailey gone, he's going to take his spot. I thought Shaka Hayward, being a younger guy, he showed a lot this preseason. Hopefully, he makes the practice squad. But hey, I'll let you get one right. Okay, it's all good.
I gave you Cedric Johnson. Actually, I got two right. Right.
Don't take a victory lap. You got 48 hours to get through here. We're jumping right into this. Let me go ahead and read this off for those that are on audio and then those that haven't heard. Today, the Bengals waived defensive tackle Travis Bell, cornerback Nate Brooks, wide receiver Cole Burgess, Devin Cochran, Elijah Collins, Carlos Davis, Dominique Davis, Nate Gilliam, Cam Grandy, Devin Harper, Shaka Hayward, Trey Hill, Cedric Jackson, PJ Jules, Kendrick Pryor, and Lance Robinson. How disappointing is it that another offensive lineman project that just never panned out? Trey Hill, tell me what you think about Trey Hill. Jake, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Eric. You know how I feel about this offensive line and the way we develop players. I got in trouble last time. I was called negative because I talked about it, so I'll try to keep it positive. but the Bengals cannot develop these offensive linemen. And Trey Hill is another example. Again, Jackson Carman is on the street. That was a second round pick. Like, you guys, I mean, you guys understand that you can't miss on second round picks, especially at the offensive line position. And the Bengals have done it over and over. Jake Fisher was a second round pick. I mean, the Bengals they struggle with drafting offensive linemen and developing offensive linemen. And I'll be honest with you, I think the Jackson Carman thing and I think the Trey Hill thing, I think this is a bad look for Pollock. I really do. I mean, again, I'm not being negative. I'm just being honest. And I think the facts speak for themselves that, again, these are guys that have been on this roster the last couple years. And I'm telling you, if Deontay Smith wasn't hurt, he wouldn't have made this team. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see the Bengals continually strike out with drafting offensive linemen. It's like that's the one position of all the position. I mean, the Bengals have done well at every other position for the most part. Offensive linemen, they just struggle. Mon?
Yeah, that draft with Hill and Carman and all the other defense and offensive linemen, it's going to go down as a horrible draft. I know we hit the jackpot with McPherson and Chase, obviously, but that's a rough draft. I get it. Trey Hill was a 5th round pick. He didn't really get a chance to play during the regular season, but when he did play in the preseason, he didn't impress. He did not impress. You could see he didn't get any better. He played major college ball at Georgia. They were hoping. He was just beat out. The 7th round rookie, Matt Lee, beat him out this year. That's plain and simple. That's what happened, and they moved on from him. Jackson Carman, we did talk about that earlier. He just it's best for him to go put on a uniform of another team. His head's spinning. He just it's not going to work out Cincinnati. Change of scenery might be the best thing for him. Deontay Smith, he was a late riser in this draft. In his draft, he was a star of the Senior Bowl. Everybody was talking about him. Hidden gem. We were so excited when he was drafted. He had some injury issues, just didn't develop. Unfortunate injury this year. We'll see. Volson has done all right, and I think this offensive line is the best that Joe Burrow's had, and we just got to continue chipping away. We can't give up trying to draft and develop these guys.
I'm looking at right now, guys. Trent Brown, free agent. Ted Karras, free agent. Orlando Brown Jr., free agent. Alex Kappa, free agent. Cody Ford, free agent. I mean, the majority of this offensive line, all free agents. Amarius Mims, obviously, we feel like he could be something special. Cordell Volson, hopefully, gets into some kind of form where we can count on him. Jackson Kirkland and Matt Lee. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating, and again, I think somebody was saying earlier too in the chat about we struggle with defensive linemen too, and I kind of look back as a whole. I look at Sam Hubbard as I don't think that was a bust, and obviously Geno Atkins is one of the best 3 techs to ever play the game as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that was a bust. Carlos Dunlap wasn't a bust. I mean, I'm talking about over and over and over again. And I understand some of these defensive linemen have not panned out, but that offensive line room, man, I don't get it. I don't understand why we can't draft that room well, and every other team seems to draft it well. I mean, again, I hate to call out some of our hated teams, but they do a really good job of developing offensive linemen, and I think that's been the difference. I mean, guys, I think we all know this for a fact. If Joe Burrow has an offensive line in 21 and 22, we are back-to-back Super Bowl champs. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So it's definitely a struggle. What I want to add, Mon, I want to ask you something real quick, because a guy that makes this roster that we kind of, you said more than me that you thought he had a chance, but What do you think about Tyson Anderson making this roster? Was that a shock to you guys that Tyson makes this roster, Mon?
Yeah, I didn't expect them to go five safeties. I thought Anthony would make it, just going with the younger guy. He's coming off Anderson was coming off an injury. He's
Yeah.
highly thought of on special teams,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad he's on the roster. They got five cornerbacks, five safeties. Obviously, with the big unknown of this new kickoff rule, Darren Simmons has a lot of say so, and he needs teams aces. And he got to keep one of his guys in Tyson Anderson. So listen, good measurables. He's a big guy, fast.
Yeah.
He made some plays in the last preseason. Unfortunately, tore his knee. He's a good football player. He really is. He's another draft pick. I want to just harp on something you said a few minutes ago. 3 of our 4 starting defensive linemen are free agents. So it's a trench issue. It's an issue with the trenches, and I don't want to harp on it anymore. I just want to repeat something that Dave Lapham said 3 weeks ago on his podcast. If you control the trenches, you control a football game. That's the key. So we have to get better in the trenches. I think we will. Let's talk about our roster.
Let's talk about it. I mean, it's to me, it is still a incredibly talented roster. Again, probably the most talent that Joe Burrow has had around him, I would say, since he's come into the league. You want to start, obviously, quarterback. We don't really need to talk about Joe Burrow. Jake Browning's injury must be good. Maybe a situation where he could have played 1 or 2 of those last preseason games, and they just felt like there was no need for it. So Jake Browning, obviously healthy, as him and Joe Burrow, the only 2 quarterbacks that make this roster. Running back, again, guys, it was I think it was a no-brainer for the 3 that made it. I know you guys talked a little bit about P. Ryan before I got on, and I think that's going to be an interesting storyline here the next couple days. Because do they keep 5 tight ends and go another running back, or they cut Travion Williams? I don't know if they do that. I think Travion is a special teams guy that Darren Simmons absolutely loves. Wide receiver, any surprise here, Mom? Because you and I had talked about, guys like Cedric Jackson, some of these younger guys maybe making this roster, but instead the Bengals keep 6 wide receivers. Are you surprised by that at all, Mon, that they kept 6? I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. My dog was barking. I thought they could go. I thought there was a possibility they could go 7. I thought there was, but 6 is fine. I love the 6. I'll say it. I think the Bengals have a top 3 wide receiver group in the NFL. I'm looking at some of these rosters, the Steelers, and they're really struggling with wide receiver depth.
Yeah.
Every one of those guys. Charlie Jones really picked it up in that last preseason game. I think he's going to have a sneaky good year. Concerning Jackson and Lassiter and Cole Burgess, all these other guys, I hope they get a couple of them on the practice squad. I think they will. I think the Bengals love those guys, developmental prospects. I could see them being wide receiver 5 and 6 in a couple years. But this group all around, man, it's big time.
I agree. I think this is – listen, I'm going to say our top 3 wide receivers, and I'm not even talking about Trent Irwin. I think Trent Irwin will probably start opening day, but Jermaine Burton and T and Jamar, those 3 right there is still maybe the best trio in the NFL, or at least top 3. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I would say some of those guys are probably going. I know they like Cole Burgess a lot. I think he makes the practice squad. Same with Cedric Jackson if he doesn't get picked up by somebody. But let's talk about this tight end room, because guys, this is crazy. They keep 5 tight ends. We threw it around, Mon. We talked about this week after week, that this could be a possibility, a real possibility. And for right now, the Bengals have 5 tight ends on this roster. That is insane. And they're all healthy, which is crazy too. I mean, all different types of tight ends. I mean, you have obviously Drew, which is he's more of an H-back type of a fullback guy. He's going to be that more inline blocker for him. Gesicki, maybe like your seventh wide receiver. And then with T. Huddy and Eric All and McLaughlin, I mean, all kind of the same built type of tight end. I mean, what are your feelings on this? Isn't it insane? I mean, we heard Pitcher talking about it, and we heard Joe Burrow even talk about this tight end room, but the Bengals keep 5 tight ends. Good or bad?
Yeah. No, I surprised me. I don't want to say it's bad, but it did surprise me. I would be surprised if it stays 5 the whole year. I really would. But I think we saw glimpses of that the last 6 games last year. The Bengals really emphasized their tight ends a lot more after the Burrow injury. They really did. And what did they do in this draft? They drafted 2 guys. So I think tight end is going to be a key part of this new modified offense. Because it is going to be, Pitcher's going to put his staple on it. It's going to have some different looks, and I think we're going to see a lot of more 2 tight end sets, and it's going to help our running game out also. So it is exciting. It's cool to see because, let's face it, the first few years of the Zach Taylor era, we didn't really use our tight ends a lot, and I think that's going to change. I really think it's going to change, and I agree with you. Gesicki's he's another wide receiver. He's wide receiver 7 on this team. And Sample is like a de facto offensive lineman. He really is. Yeah. He's going to help tremendously.
And he's our fullback too, so it's kind of a slash running back.
And I'm going to tell you right now, man, Eric All is going to, if he doesn't get hurt, he's going to be a special player.
Well, I just look at this roster, and it's insane the weapons that Joe Burrow has. I mean, it really is insane. This offense, I think this offense could, depending on Pitcher and how well he handles the title of offensive coordinator. And obviously, that's a big part of it is as offensive coordinator is calling plays and putting your guys in positions to be successful and do all those things. But if Dan Pitcher ends up being a home run at offensive coordinator, this is a top 3 offense in the NFL. When you look at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, if Dan Pitcher can figure out a way to put together this offense and run it successfully, this is a top 3 offense in the NFL. I don't know how you stop it. I don't know how you go out there as a defense and scheme against this offense if Dan Pitcher runs it the right way.
Well, and just to add one last thing on that, Dan Pitcher doesn't have to do a lot to make this great. We've heard so much that he's Joe Burrow's guy. And in reality, if all he does is get out of the way and let Joe have more of a say, this offense is going to really, really thrive. And, you give Joe more of the calling, the running, the no huddle and running it out there, and we're going to go a long way. So let's shift to the defense. We talked about some of our IR guys earlier on, but we've got the defense up here. Is there anything that really surprised you guys on who we kept and didn't keep?
I'm gonna throw a name out there that I'm a little surprised by, and I know because I know you're gonna be like, oh well, that's because you picked him to make the roster. I'm really surprised that Travis Bell did not make this roster. I think he was a guy that could give us that interior penetration that we're looking for, that interior pass rush. So I'm a little surprised that he didn't make it. But besides that, as I look down this roster defensively, another name that is not on this roster that has been on it for quite a while, a guy that I actually thought would make the roster, and now that he didn't, I'm not heartbroken about it, is Jalen Davis, another guy, that nickel guy that, has been that guy. And maybe they feel like, that Dax Hill maybe could fill that role along with, whatever else he's going to be doing, playing boundary corner and maybe backup safety and now backup nickel. So, Bell is the guy that I didn't see make this roster that I'm a little disappointed in. But besides that, I like this roster a lot. I would switch Bell for Zach Carter, to be honest with you. Mon?
Yeah, I mean, Bell flashed, and I think Zach Carter made the team because he's going to be our new Cam Sample. His
I
best
agree.
play in
I agree.
college, he was a defensive end. Bengals made him a defensive tackle. The guy went from 290 to 320. He's not really a defensive tackle. The guy needs to get back to 300, 295 pounds. Let him come in and give us 10, 15 snaps a game. Listen, the key to this offensive line, it's simple. Our starters are going to be okay. What happened last year? They were beat up. They played too many snaps. Lou Anarumo didn't believe in his depth. He didn't want to bring in guys because the drop off was significant. And guess what? We saw it with horrible rush stats against us.
Yeah.
The Bengals, they DJ Reader was in there. They didn't, they play. The defensive line was a lot better. We don't have DJ Reader this year. That's my biggest concern, Jake. I hear what you're saying about, Travis Bell. Travis Bell's 305 pounds. If we go in to this New England game in 2 weeks or 10 days, whenever it is, with this starting defensive line, we don't have anybody that's over 310 pounds. We don't have a big bodied guy. McKinley Jackson's not going to play. That's my concern. With the waiver wires coming up, I'm calling it right now. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to sign a nose tackle, somebody that's 320 to 340 pounds, somebody that's played in the NFL, has started some games, that can give us 15, 20 snaps a game. My dog agrees also. So I
Do you have
really
any
think
names for us?
no.
Any
There's a lot
ideas?
of guys out there. I know he was a third round pick of the Browns last year. He did play a lot for them. The Sikiaka was his name from Baylor. He's a big body. The Browns cut him. I get it. Maybe he needed a change of scenery, like Jackson Carman. Bring him in. Anybody we pick up now, I get it. They're not superstars. I don't expect them to be. All I want is 10, 15, 20 snaps a game. That's all I want. BJ Hill last year was playing like an all pro the first 6 games. What happened? He got beat up. He played too many snaps. He's a better player when he gets rest. Remember the Larry Ogunjobi year? They were rotating back and forth, and they had 15, 14 and a half sacks combined.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need quality depth to come in. I think we're going to get that. Rankins is going to be a fine player. I believe in Jenkins. I really do. I think he's going to be a solid pro. We need a big body guy. We really do.
I'm curious, Mom, because we obviously we know McKinley Jackson's been banged up, but he's not on IR. He's not on PUP. I mean, maybe McKinley Jackson is going to be that big body guy and play
Well,
some snaps for us. I mean, he's not. He made this roster. He's not on PUP. He didn't go to the 4 game plan. I mean, maybe that's their thought. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out here, but maybe that's
and
their
that's
thought
that's
is
what Zach said today. Zach in his press conference, they asked him about McKinley Jackson, and they said his timetable is a little bit closer. So we're definitely going to see him in we better see him in the first 4 weeks because they could have IR'd him. Zach
yeah.
made it seem like we will see him within those first 4 weeks. So maybe we'll see him week 1. Maybe it's plays out perfectly.
Jake,
Go ahead,
I
Mike.
expect both you guys. I expect big things from McKinley Jackson. I think he's going to be a fine pro. He is. He's a bigger bodied guy. He does have athleticism too. So it's not like he's just going to be a somebody that's just there taking up a blocker. I think he's going to be able to penetrate and potentially get a tackle for loss here and there. But let's face it, guys, he hasn't practiced in weeks, and it's going to be
Oh,
a
I
while
don't
for him to
disagree.
get back
I don't
in this.
disagree.
Now,
Yeah.
and I just this team, guys. Here's my biggest fear. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm not trying to be a negative guy. New England is a 9-point underdog in Cincinnati. You know what New England is going to want to do in Cincinnati? They want Joe Burrow on the bench. They don't want Jamar Chase catching a ball. They don't want T. Higgins catching a ball. You know how you keep them from catching the ball? You keep them on the bench. They want 35, 38-minute time of possession. They're going to run the ball 35, 40 times. If we can't stop the ball, it could get ugly. We have got to control that line of scrimmage. Week 1 in Cincinnati, that's what's going to happen. That's going to be the game plan for New England. Guys, we need to reinforce that defensive line. If there's a player out there that has started 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in his career, big body, you bring him in. You
I
bring him
agree.
in.
I agree.
Everybody talks about Briggs. This Javon Briggs from Cincinnati. He's a local kid. Got drafted in the 7th round by the Browns. He's a big bodied guy. Bring him into the practice squad, not the active roster. We already
Yeah.
have 2 rookies we drafted, Jenkins and McKinley Jackson. Briggs isn't going to give us NFL snaps right now. He could be an all-pro in the future. Bring him into the practice squad. We need a veteran that has started NFL games. We got to just stop with this Briggs stuff to the active roster. I know he's a local guy, but guys, we need NFL people that have played NFL snaps to help this team out.
I agree. I think when you look at the depth on this defensive line, it's a little scary. I mean, just to be honest, Zach Carter has not played well. Joseph Asai was not even. He was a healthy scratch last year in multiple games. Jay Tuafeli, again, is a traveler. I mean. And then the other 3 are rookies. The depth on this defensive line, I think, is definitely the weak point of this football team. And you're right, Mon. When people line up against us, it's going to be run heavy week after week after week. And hopefully these guys hold up. I mean, we're really, guys, aren't we asking a lot of Chris Jenkins? I mean, I think the Bengals are planning on Chris Jenkins playing 15 to 20 snaps a game. I really do believe that. Because when you look at the depth of this defensive line, the interior depth is just, it's not good. Zach Carter, Jay Tuafeli, I mean, those guys haven't shown anything. They really haven't.
No, they're spot players. They're spot players. They're in to give you 10, 15 snaps. If they play any more than that, they're not going to be effective. I will say this. Let me be positive here. I think our linebackers are going to be better this year. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt are going to be so much better. They're going to react. They're going to stuff the run. They were out, they were, paralysis by overanalysis. Overanalysis last year. Why? Because Von Bell wasn't there. Geno Stone wasn't there. They were doing so much stuff trying to get everybody else situated in proper place that they were out of place. So I think they're going to have a better year. They're going to rebound. You're right. We just have to, we're already talking about the Patriot game. That's next week. We're sort of previewing it now, but we know what's going to happen. And so let's get back to the roster.
The rookies, I just want to clear this up for Dada D. The rookies are McKinley Jackson, Chris Jenkins, and Cedric Johnson, Dada D. Those are the 3 rookies I'm referring to. So, yeah, I think I'm with you, Mon. If there is a vet guy out there that has played any football and has played it well, the Bengals have got to jump on it. It just would be interesting to see, though, whose spot they fill, right? Because I think the Bengals love these tight ends. I don't see them getting rid of one of those 5 tight ends because I think they know if they do, someone else is going to pick them up. Anytime you look at adding a guy, you have to subtract a guy. We talk about the O-line depth as well. The O-line depth not being great either. You got a lot of young guys in there. If there's an interior offensive lineman that's sitting out there somewhere and the Bengals go and pick them up, who gets subtracted from this roster? So I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying it will be interesting to see where the Bengals go with that. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know if this is what John is referring to, but I really think that if the Bengals go out and add a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, I think Tyson Anderson is the first one gone. I think that's the case. I think you got 5 safeties. The Bengals never carry 5 safeties. That's a lot of safeties.
It is.
Listen to all the beat writers. Sorry, Mon. Listen to all the beat writers. Everybody just raves about how much this staff loves Tyson Anderson and what he's brought to special teams and what he's brought to the team. I don't see him being the odd man out. Looking at it now, Tyson Anderson, maybe Dejon Anthony. It's hard to get Dejon Anthony to the practice squad. Someone did bring it up earlier. We could be looking at, instead of a cut and a sign, maybe they do try and trade somebody like Hudson, or Anderson. That it might not be somebody on waiver wires. It might be a trade out there, but you're going to have to give up one of these guys. And it's nice to have this luxury. We're looking at a 53-man roster where a lot of teams would beg to have those 52nd and 53rd people that we have.
I
You know, we
agree.
now have the luxury of having these hard cuts, and you got to give a lot of credit to Duke Tobin for that. But do you guys see any potential trade targets out there? And if so, are we going to trade? Are we going to trade Hudson, or who would be the guy?
Let me say this real quick, and then I'll answer that, Eric. This is my point with the 5 safeties, right? You right now, just looking at this roster, you have Battle, Anthony, Geno Stone, and obviously Von Bell. Those 4 guys are locks to this roster. You have Tyson Anderson, the 5th safety. You still have Dax Hill sitting out there. And I'm not saying I want to see Dax Hill playing safety for the Bengals, because I think that would be not a good situation. That would mean that the other couple guys are banged up. But you still have Dax Hill on this roster, who could really be the 5th safety. I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. He's versatile. He's played safety. I don't understand the 5 safeties. I think when I look at this roster, that's the one. And maybe, like Mon said, maybe there is a guy the Bengals are waiting to fall, a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman that they are waiting to get cut, or maybe has already got cut. Because I just do not see the Bengals keeping basically 6 safeties on this roster, if you include Dax Hill. Go ahead, Mon. Did you want to throw on that, or
no? With Dax Hill's a certified. He's our starting cornerback now. He's a corner. He could play safety in a pinch. I think Dijon Anthony can play potential slot corner. I think it's a good mix there. 5, I think with the new NFL kickoff rule, I think going heavy at running back or safety is going to be the norm. I really think it's going to be the norm right now. I have a question for you guys. I know we're still analyzing this roster. We saw the cuts. We see the initial 53. We don't know what tomorrow is going to be a big day also. What's your biggest concern on this roster construction? Jake, what is yours? I'll tell you mine. It's the offensive line. The starting 5 are great. I don't want to see Cody Ford play tackle.
I would say 6, right? Because Amarius Mims, though, you would say 6 were good.
He's fine.
Right?
Yeah. He's our swing tackle. But he's hurt right now. Our main backups are Jackson Kirkland, who impressed them. He could play tackle in a pinch. We really don't have a swing tackle right now. Cody Ford, if he plays tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, you better have Drew Sample next to him the whole game. Cody Ford's not a tackle. He's not a tackle. I'm telling you right now, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, don't be surprised if we have a waiver wire pickup that's an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. Don't be surprised. I'm really worried about the depth on the offensive line. That's my biggest fear.
Right. That's mine. Yeah. It's mine. I mean, I just talked about the defensive line. I will say that mine is the defensive line. I think we gave up 160 yards rushing a game last year. We lost DJ Reader. I don't see where this defensive line has got better. Sheldon Rankings, I think, is an upgrade as far as the interior pass rush. But as far as stopping the run, Mon, I am concerned at the depth of this defensive line. I understand what you're saying about the offensive line. I just talked about, how basically our backups are all young guys for the most part. But this defensive line, I mean, you're throwing a bunch of rookies into the fire, and that's fine. But these linebackers are going to have to play their asses off, to be honest with you, because, these defensive linemen are young and they're inexperienced. And I do think the one thing that helps us is I think this linebacking core is one of the best in the NFL. I think just having Meta, it makes this one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL. I really do believe that.
The biggest thing that we're not talking about and that everybody's forgetting with our run defense is Sam Hubbard. Sam Hubbard was injured and played injured all season. Sam Hubbard is a run-stopping defensive end. That is his specialty. A healthy Sam Hubbard is going to give big dividends to this defensive, this run defense. I don't think you can sleep on that at all.
No, I agree. That's a good point. Sam Hubbard is he sets the edge. He's a good run defender.
Yeah, he is.
It's going to be a team effort. It's going to be we just got to keep our guys fresh. We can't have them playing defensive line. These guys are in the trenches. They're getting beat up. You need to have guys that can give them, a couple series off. And when that happened last year, buddy, it was a drop off. It was like major college football to NAIA. I mean, it was that big of a drop off, and we just need better production from our backups when it comes on that defensive line, because I'll be the defensive coordinator for every NFL team, or the offensive coordinator for every NFL team that plays us. They're going to run the ball down our throat. They're going to try to, at least, because
I
they
agree.
want Burrow on the bench. They want Burrow on the bench.
Before we get out of here, and you guys' concerns is I mean, Jake's pretty much with the starting defensive line, but Mon's talking depth. I'm going to talk the guy that's going to be
I'm
out
talking
there.
depth. I'm talking
Yeah.
depth too. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm talking depth
Well,
too. Yeah.
let me talk a starter then. And it's unfortunate that we really didn't get to see the battle play out, but I'm really concerned with this rookie punter. Rakow was very inconsistent, and some of his punts were really, really nice, but even the one that he boomed was a touchback, and you can't have touchbacks when you're trying to punt. So that's my big concern, and I still go back to the field goal that Evan missed in the preseason. I don't think it was a clean hold. So I'm concerned with that. I hope he comes out and just takes this job. I hope he's averaging 55 yards a punt and the hang time's back. But we saw so much inconsistency that, I know a lot of us want to be the homers and say we're never going to punt, but it happens. We're out there punting. We need to pin him in. We really need to see him steal this job in the first 4 weeks. We're Brad Robbins fans, but as Bengals fans, it's not a good world if he comes back and takes the job, because that means for 4 weeks we've had bad punting, and we don't want 4 weeks of bad punting. Not when you're going against Mahomes and all these other upstart teams that want to. It's their Super Bowl. We play the Panthers, we play the Commanders, we pay the Patriots. They're all new coaches. They want to come out and beat the big dogs. They're going to be bringing their best games. So if we go out there and give a 30-yard punt, that's not going to be good.
Well, and I think we all know. I'm going to be honest with you. A punt lost us the second AFC Championship. So is punting important? 100% it's important. Nobody wants to talk about it, but special teams is just as big of a factor as offense and defense when it comes to the three phases of football. So I agree with you. I mean, very inconsistent. By the way, hooday to everybody out there. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Great comments in the comment section. But yeah, I think the punting situation is volatile. I really do. I think Darren Simmons he's going through punters like Swiss cheese, trying to find the right guy. And I think they have tried to make it a point of emphasis this offseason is trying to find a punter that can be consistent, Mon.
Yeah, I think, like we said, Rakow is going to have a 4-week tryout, and I'm rooting for Brad Robbins also. We need to have more consistency from our special teams, especially punting. I am going to say this. You know what? The key to the Bengals, we didn't have it last year. We just need complementary football. How do we help a defense that's going to try to figure out, get their McKinley Jackson, get these guys healthy? Maybe we can control the clock a little bit, run the ball a little bit more, keep Mahomes on the sideline. If we got 3, 4, 5 extra minutes of time of possession, if we get 30, 40 extra yards rushing a game, that's 2 or 3 more first downs. That's 3 or 4 more minutes for us. So if we can play complementary football, we can, pin these guys field position wise, pin them inside the 10. That helps out tremendously. So we'll see. Our defense is going to be much better, strictly because the secondary is going to be communicating more. And I expect a rebound. I really do. We just gotta be careful with teams that are going to try to run the ball against us a lot. That defensive line needs to hold up, and I think our linebackers are going to help them.
Hey, really, really quick, biggest surprise, Eric. You tell me first. Who made this team that was the biggest surprise in your eyes?
Good question.
No, I don't know if there was the biggest surprise. Everybody was capable of making this team. Maybe Zach Carter. I thought the Zach Carter experiment was going to be over, but he made the 53-man roster. So
Fooled you. They fooled you.
Yeah.
Zach Carter experiment is not over. And maybe Drew Sample doesn't get hurt, and maybe you got your wish that the Zach Carter experiment was over. Mon, biggest surprise.
I talked him up. I did, because I think he's a good football player, and he's a draft pick, and I'm glad he's on the team. But I didn't expect Tyson Anderson to make the team. I thought they would go six. I thought they'd go six corners.
That's my guy.
Six corners and four safeties. I did just say a few minutes ago, it's the new NFL, five safeties. Listen, I'm glad he's on the team. It is a little bit of a surprise. He was coming off an injury. They drafted a couple DBs this year. So, hey, man, it is what it is. I'm gladly eat crow. I'll gladly, hey, Mon, keep the receipts. If he comes in and has an unbelievable year, I'm glad I'm wrong.
I agree. Tyson Anderson is my pick. I've rooted for the guy. I want the guy to stay healthy and see what he can do. But I just think the state of this roster, again, I said it. I know Dax is playing corner now, but having six safeties on this roster is insane. And I'm surprised that Tyson Anderson is on this roster. I really am. I don't think anyone else on this roster surprises me except for Tyson Anderson. I think for the rest of it, I think the Bengals made a lot of the right moves, to be honest. Mon?
Okay. Eric, last question. I know we got to wrap it up. Last question. Yep. Give me two guys that we cut that we want back on the roster spot. Eric, who do you want? I'll say it. I want Shaka Hayward. I want Shaka Hayward and Gillum to come back.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah. I'm kind of like going around in my head because I know he was put in the IR, but I feel like Brad Robbins should be on the practice squad if that was a cut. But that's in the future.
Yeah.
If we get to that point, gotta go with Mon. Yeah, I don't see any other guys that really blew us away.
I think Bell. I think Bell and Hayward, Shaka Hayward and Bell are my two guys. I want to see both of those names on the practice squad because I think Travis Bell is a guy that can play football in this league. Go ahead, Eric.
So the last thing before
DJ Ivy's on the PUP.
Yep.
DJ Ivy's
on the
PUP.
Yes. DJ Ivy is on PUP. When he comes back, does he take Tyson Anderson's spot?
I think
both special teamers, but you're training a corner for a safety.
I'm gonna be honest, Eric. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not trying to talk this into existence for Tyson Anderson. I don't think Tyson Anderson is on the final 53. When we kick off against the Patriots, I do not think Tyson Anderson will be on this roster. I think it will be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. I don't think Tyson Anderson will be on this roster.
I think 53. I think 52 and 53 are Zach Carter and Tua Faley.
Ooh!
I think they're the final. Two of the roster.
I didn't know we were going there. I like that. I like 52 and 53. I'm gonna say Tyson Anderson is 53. I love this, Mon. This is great stuff. I'm gonna say Tyson Anderson is 53, and I'm gonna say Zach Carter is 52. I love that. That's good. I like that.
I think we're going to see 3, maybe 4 new Bengals that were on other rosters tomorrow.
At least he didn't say Hudson.
Listen, Mon can't say
He's
Hudson
51.
anymore.
He's 51.
He's 51.
Hey, I did you a favor. When I messed up your spreadsheet, I got you in a correct. Now history will always say that Mon got it right.
Hey, listen, Eric. I know I'm not good at remembering these things, but I think I remember Mon saying that if Tanner Hudson makes this roster, did he say he was going to buy his jersey? I feel like that was said on this show. We might have to rewind and look back and see if Mon said that.
I'm a fireman. I make no money. I'm a public safety officer. I make no money. That's why we need super chats. Mon needs money. Let's go.
Listen, everybody, somebody make Mon a Tanner Hudson jersey. I want it to be sketched together, take an 8 from this jersey. Actually, let's just flip your Munoz jersey around there.
Guys, I need two new co-hosts. These guys are killing me. Get out of here.
Hey, I do think it is crazy the Bengals kept 12 rookies. That's got to be a record, right? I would love to know from anybody if the Bengals have ever kept 12 rookies. That is crazy. That is crazy.
They have. Their first year in the league.
Outside of that, hey, man. On that note,
take 69 out of the take 69 out of the equation. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. As always, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the podcast platforms: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. As always, follow Mon on Twitter at @TheFireMon. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88. Follow the Cincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at Cincinnati Pod. And as always, guys, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9. And on Instagram, the same without the app, Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, guys, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Cincinnati Podcast Network. He is Eric. He is Mon. I am Jake. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We love you. We appreciate you. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We'll see you soon.